And it's a triple mispronunciation. Amir Weitman. Maybe third time's a charm.
Right.
Maybe. Got it. Woo. And not just because of that, you'll be the first one on our quick fire round. Is the American push for Israeli-Palestinian peace a failure? Mr. Weitman, please take the lead.
Listen, I'm 47 years old. As far as I can remember, even as a small kid, I remember American envoys have tried to make peace in the region. That is many, many decades already. I'm happy for them to carry on, but let's be realistic. I don't think anything is going to happen.
Dr. Oren, let's be realistic here.
Well, the push didn't fail because there was no push. Very simply. And I'm much older than Amir. I go back to the first peace initiatives of Yitzhak Rabin. I was an advisor to that government, and I've seen them all. There's no real push here, and I think that this administration understands that on the Palestinian side, there's no what we call plenipotentiary leadership. There's no leadership that's actually capable of conducting a negotiation, signing on a dotted line, fulfilling a peace treaty. And on the Israeli side, you have an Israeli government in which not a single member supports the locution of a two-state solution for two people. And so this administration is taking note of what previous administrations, particularly the Obama administration, which invested a tremendous amount of time and capital and got nothing out of it. And the administration has other fish to fry in the Ukraine, with China, and with internal American upheavals.
Mr. Rubin, any silver lining, maybe?
Well, I'm in the middle. I'm younger than Ambassador Oren and older than Amir, so maybe there's a silver lining in that. I concur. The United States, we can push, prod, cajole, be it an ally, supporter of peacemaking, but at the end of the day, the parties have to make the peace. And right now, the conditions in Israel are not leaning in that direction. But that doesn't mean that the United States should not be engaged and should not try to find ways forward, because the parties need it. If anything, the cycle of violence we've seen in the past week or so only demonstrates once again how this consistent insecurity leads to violence, leads to pain and suffering and unnecessary death.
Well, when it maybe particularly when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but perhaps even more broadly, gentlemen, and please feel free to interact from this point onwards, of course, the more international involvement, the less prospects of peace. Dr. Oren.
Well,
I didn't understand that question. I hope anybody else did. What are you saying, Ellie? Let me hear again.
No, I'm wondering, maybe the more international involvement, the less prospects of actual peace between two warring parties.
Listen, it's a general rule in diplomacy, and I think Joel was getting to this, and that is that if the two sides are not in a position to negotiate, all the international involvement, all the international pressure in the world is not going to help. And we see a primary example of that in Ukraine. Neither side is willing to negotiate right now, and so all the international efforts are not going to come to any fruition there. Right now, you're dealing with very fundamental problems: the breakdown of Palestinian Authority rule in Jenin, the takeover of that city by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, which has forced the IDF to go in there and fight the jihad, which has created the level of violence in Jenin, which has spilled over into Jerusalem. These are beyond the ability of the United States or any international body to remedy. It's an internal Palestinian issue, an internal Israeli-Palestinian dynamic, very, very difficult, and the landscape is simply not ripe for negotiations.
But if I may, on a silver lining, Ellie, to your question, there may be a silver lining with the Abraham Accords countries, these countries that the United States was very involved in supporting peacemaking between Israel and Morocco and Bahrain and United Arab Emirates, and that matters. And those countries matter now to this government, as does Jordan and Egypt as well. Prime Minister Netanyahu just went to Amman to try to work on some items there bilaterally. So they care about peace, too, and they care about the Palestinian issue as well. How far, in what direction, we don't know yet, but they do care, and their publics do care. And for Israel to become more integrated into the region, which is a big Biden administration priority, that's going to require Israel engaging these countries and how to do that. And that's going to require a discussion about what to do about the Palestinians, because we cannot continue to act as if this is a conflict that just can go on like this and there will not be repercussions. As soon as there's violence, the whole region's attention focuses on that. And so maybe these countries will help navigate that going forward as well.
And that brings me to a more fundamental question in today's geopolitical reality. Is there a substitute, an alternative to American engagement in the Middle East? You know, you want to get out, but they pull you back in. The talks about leaving the Middle Eastern quagmire been stated time and time again, but maybe the Americans are just needed here, Mr. Weitman.
Yes, first of all, yes, America is the hegemon. It is the only real superpower in the world, and therefore its presence is needed. In what way? It's needed because the alternative is less stability and more insecurity, more wars, probably. So its presence is needed to protect, first of all, America's interest, because America is not a non-profit organization. They need to, first of all, protect their own interest. But beyond that, I think that the countries here need to have the support of America. So there are common interests. But this has to be realistic in the sense that we know we've got a lot of experience now. We know that America, as Michael said before, cannot be a substitute for the parties. And if there is no will on the Palestinian side, specifically to reach, peace and coexistence with the Jewish people in Israel, this will not happen. Whatever efforts America is investing in the region.
Dr. Oren, can Israel handle without an all-in American engagement?
Yeah, of course it can, and it has. We're living in an age of American withdrawal from world affairs generally. Certainly the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a profound example of that. I came back from Washington in 2014 with the message that Israel's on its own. And that's bad news, but also good news. We're a strong country. We're not where we were, 20, 30 years ago. But having said that, there is no alternative to the United States. The United States remains the superpower which has the most influence in this region. It's not what it was. And in some ways, Israel could probably contribute more to the restoration of ties between the United States and Saudi Arabia than the United States can contribute to the opening of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel at this point.
Yeah.
So we have to be realistic. Things have changed. But again, there's no substitute for the United States.
Joel Rubin, wrap it up for us.
If I may, those days of U.S. disengagement from the world are long over. We've seen over the past year American leadership with NATO on behalf of Ukraine and with Ukraine regarding Russia at a level of involvement that has not been seen in decades. And it was the Iraq War that, frankly, kicked America out of the Middle East. That Iraq War destroyed American people's confidence in military engagements abroad, and it really harmed our efforts with Middle East partners. So there's a recalibration taking place. But the idea that the U.S. is withdrawing from the world, that was an idea certainly from several years ago. It's no longer the case.
Well, the pendulum keeps on shifting, and luckily for us, you're here with us to unpack it all. Joel Rubin, Dr. Michael Oren, and Amir Weitman, thank you so very much for your time and insight. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you back on the show soon. Thank you, gentlemen. We're out for our last 2-minute break, but when we get back, we have so much more for you, so do not go anywhere. We're here, 2 minutes, and we're back.